was, and we already had projected things that we were wanting to do. You know, the city for a long time, when they put in EDC, sat there and couldn't do anything with EDC because they didn't have the funds to do it. And once the funds finally started building up, where they could start doing that, it wasn't that long ago where we had all these boarded up buildings up and down this boulevard, and people got off their tail and went out there and sold the city and put businesses in those empty buildings, to put the tax money that we have now, and to say that we're not invested in the city is not accurate. We got out here and worked our tail off.
I didn't say anything's not invested in the city. I'm just saying we're 3 officers short, for God's sake.
I understand that.
And then we're sitting with money over here that's just waiting. That's all we're sitting on it for. So, that's insanity to me.
And money will change the thing. Why aren't the people that are paying $70,000 and $80,000 for an officer, why aren't they getting officers? Ch02.
Well, they're getting more officers. They're getting more bikes than we are.
Everyone out there's got an ad out for officers. I know.
But that aside,
paying out a lot more than we are.
we're not getting money into the general fund. And the business money increases was supposed to help the general fund, to help the public. And every year I hear, well, if we get this, 5 years down the road, the taxpayers will benefit. It's time, they're not going to benefit now, but it's time to cut them a little bit of slack.
Mayor Ashton.
Yes.
So the bigger question here is, if EDC is part of the city, just like the fire department, just like the police department, why do y'all not approve their budget like you have to approve theirs?
We still do. It will ultimately come to the council for final approval. That'll be on what, the 23rd?
But the difference is, we can't get
That's their public hearing, you'll hear it on the 30th.
So there you go. It'll come before the council to be approved on the 30th. Now, it is a separate deal in the sense that because it is a separate corporation, even though it's a city-controlled corporation, that half cent sales tax goes directly to it, which is not the case for the fire department. So that's why it has a different level of oversight and bureaucracy that goes into it. But yes, ultimately, the city council has final approval of the EDC budget.
But we could approve tomorrow, what we just approved tonight, and something could happen tomorrow, and we could say, hey, I'm sorry, this emergency happened, we can't give you that $250,000. We can do that to the fire department, but we can't do that to the city.
But
We can't touch that money.
you can also not approve their budget until they hear you out, and y'all can...
But they still sit on the money. It doesn't matter about the budget part of it, they still sit on their money. We can't, for an emergency, we're in an emergency situation for other stuff that's not being discussed. And this money is not getting into the general fund, and we got an emergency down at the water plant, and we can't get any funds out of EDC to help with that, despite them having 2 pieces of property and getting rid of money.
So can you change to where that money for the 2 pieces of property goes straight to the general fund for this next fiscal year?
I guess that's a good question. I don't remember, was that a motion that was ever taken, or was that just the understanding at that time that the rent would go to EDC?
I think that was the understanding at the time.
Well, to me, I think the city manager and executive director of the EDC has the right to decide where that rent money goes, to be honest.
To change where the money goes, the tax part of this, it has to go to an election.
I mean, I did ask the
Well, the
attorney
taxes,
about
yes,
it.
but not the pieces of property.
Not the rent.
No, not the property, no, but the
So
other part.
then you went a little bit.
I want to convert EDC from what they are now to a board. I have to take it to an election. I have to change it from a corporation to a board. Right now, they're a corporation, the only way you change it to an election. It's kind of like a park. If you want to sell a piece of park property, you have to take it to an election.
Can that not be done in the other?
I don't know.
That's what John had,
He said 71 days, so if we wanted it on there.
Yeah, you gotta call it 71 days before it is.
That would take 3 council members to vote for it, too.
And I'll have to,
I'm sure that-
I'll get that confirmed, and Betsy, I'm pretty sure, but, or either that.
We're knocking on the door 71 days.
Right.
It's really close.
Yeah, we are close, but,
November 3rd.
so that'll put you into May.
November 8th.
Yeah, November 8th.
Yeah, it's November 8th.
I'm not counting elections anymore.
Well, I think I interrupted you.
Sorry.
Or maybe John did. One of us interrupted you.
I do have a budget in the black and water.
That's good.
That's good, except it's leaving out spinning around in water right now. think I'd fly that flag real high.
Y'all, I guess I'm just asking you, what the council wants to do. Do you wanna make some cuts? Do you wanna?
I personally, I don't want to cut anything out of it. I don't think there's any fluff in this, and I do think it's offensive to allege that there's fluff in it. I mean, let's call it what it is. But,
If there is, there's not 200,000.
well, if there is, point it out. Tell me where, I mean, we've had this for days, tell me where there's fluff, but I don't think there's fluff, so I have leaving it as it is, is fine. I think going to 73, being further in reserves, I'm fine with that. We are in an emergency, that's what emergency funds are there for, so leaving the tax rate at the no new revenue rate and, being able to...
And I sent y'all that number with what it would be. It actually ends up being $86,000.
Marvin, how much more did we bring in this year than we had last year? If I'm reading your numbers right, the city brought in almost 900,000 more in revenue than they had last year.
That's because I created things like the street maintenance fund that comes over from the water fund. I created a lot of, all the revenue sources I could come up with legally, I created, and that's one reason that amount is so much more. Not all of it, but that's the reason. And plus, enterprise may be starting to pay off finally, is because all the revenues include selling those vehicles that we've got. And I went back to enterprise to make sure of the amount of money for each one, PD, all of them. That is in the general too. So that's a different revenue than we ever had before.
Why is enterprise, expense in the PD's, budget and not in their crime control?
Don't we have,
We have
I thought we
one
had,
vehicle in crime.
yeah.
There's one
I
vehicle.
thought crime,
There is one vehicle, but I thought it was in there, the lease payment, 10,000.
Yeah, the lease payment is in there.
Yeah.
For the single, the detective's truck.
And I think they got sold previously, if I'm not mistaken. We can double check on that, but yeah, it would be the same.
Vehicles mainly was their main, one of their main functions.
Yeah, they get a vehicle, but I know the lease payment's in there. I'm just, I'll double check with Enterprise, but we may have took it all out of PD, but what that's gonna do is,
But where's the crime board district after that last one when we talked about the at least one time for now?
well, we're in the red.
Right, I mean, so it's not like we're flush with crime district funds either.
No, we're not. So, but even if we could sell that as more revenue, that would help the crime district. I'd probably have to take it out of the general though, because I imagine we got it added with all police cars. I could fix that, but I'm just saying that's what you're looking at. So you're taking it out of general, putting that one.
Right, and I'm not telling you to do that.
No, I'm just saying if you did and you put it over into crime, it's gonna help crime's revenue, yes, but it's gonna take away from general because you're taking it away.
Yeah, so I
We
don't...
got 178,500 out of crime district for enterprise.
178,500.
178,500 out of the police department out for enterprise.
Yeah.
Lease payment.
And that's what I'm saying, that vehicle might be in there, and can move that, but what I'm trying to explain when I do, it's gonna impact the general fund, because I gotta take it out of general, put it into crime. In other words, it's just money gonna be transferred back and forth.
If it flows to crime district and pays out of crime district, why would it, I don't understand why it would be in.
The whole 178,000 you have in there,
Yeah.
if I counted that vehicle out of crime in that amount of money, say it was $20,000, then I took that 20,000 away, then it'd be 158 in the general, and I put 20,000 back in the revenue on crime. It's still gonna make it in the red on crime. It's gonna hurt the general, but that's the way it should be, that's the way it should be. I don't mind flip-flopping it, that's what I'm saying.
To me, I mean, that's just moving from one pocket to the other. It doesn't affect anything.
I do that because that's where it belongs, but, but then when I do, it just makes a little more deficit.